every few seasons, a player that defines a decade enters into the league. And for this draft, that is now Dallas Mavericks forward Cooper Flagg. Who is Cooper Flagg? Why do people call him generational? And what might he look like in this upcoming NBA season? Born in Newport, Maine, and graduating from the prestigious Mount Verde Academy in Florida, Cooper Flagg burst onto the basketball scene in high school, showing that rare combination of size, strength, speed, overall athleticism, and basketball IQ. By the time he was even in 8th grade, he was already receiving scholarship offers. As a senior, Flagg was the #1 recruit in the 2024 class, averaging 16.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.6 steals, and 2.7 blocks per game. Along with this, he got a ton of major accolades. This includes USA Basketball Male Athlete of the Year, Gatorade National Player of the Year. He was a McDonald's All-American and National High School Player of the Year. Flagg also delivered us a standout performance at the FIBA Under-17 World Cup. In the gold medal game versus Spain, Flagg put up 10 points, 17 rebounds, 2 assists, 8 steals, and 4 blocks. In this game, he showed off far more than his scoring ability as he struggled from the field, but he showed how he can impact the game in a variety of ways and how his playstyle leads to winning. It is no surprise that Cooper Flagg would end up committing to Duke University. Just like in high school, he won a ton of awards during his time at Duke. Just some of them include being ACC Rookie of the Year, All-Defensive Team, the Wooden and Naismith Awards, Consensus All-American, AP Player of the Year, NCAA All-Tournament, and even more. He was a driving force on a dominant Duke team that made it to the Final Four and whose entire starting lineup was drafted into the NBA. But what exactly does Flagg's game look like, and how is that going to translate into the NBA? I want to start off talking about his scoring versatility. After all, Flagg averaged 19 points per game in his only season in college. The thing that first caught my eye was the fact that he shot 38% from 3 on just under 4 attempts per game. He has an overall smooth motion with a good high release point, and he can shoot the ball in a variety of ways. He can shoot off the spot up, he can come off the dribble, he can pull up, he can come around a screen. He is really good at relocating himself to a new area to get himself an open set foot shot, which is a huge skill going into the NBA. In all the hours and all the games that I watched Flagg, this was something that was super consistent with him, and I expect this is something that will translate well into the league. His volume was relatively low, but he does stand about 6'8", 6'9", so he's definitely a good forward that can space out the floor. He also shot 84% from the free throw line, which is typically a good mark that a player has sound mechanics that will translate well into the NBA. And that includes the mid-range as well. His form remained good, his shot selection was pretty good, and a lot of the shots did hit, even if I'm not always showing it, because I do want to highlight his shot selection and form. A good shot doesn't have to be a made shot. And his finishing at the rim was also quite impressive. According to sportsreference.com, Flagg is about 6'9" at 205 pounds, but some reports recently do have him weighing up to about 225 pounds at the max that I found. And what is really good about Flagg is he has demonstrated that he can finish both with finesse and power at the rim. Here against Clemson, he puts his shoulder down and he does well finishing with his left hand for a right-handed player. And here against Houston, he misses his first attempt, but the ball gets right back to him and he hits one of the most impressive reverse and one finishes I have ever seen. I really like this play also against Houston, where out of the pick and roll, he spins, regains his balance, absorbs his contact, and has a good finish despite an awkward shot. However, I do wonder if an attempt like that is more likely to get blocked by professional, more athletic, and stronger big men that he will be finding in the NBA. But there is some promise to this, such as this play against Florida State, where he sinks down low and shows off his strength with a tough finish. Here he runs a pick and roll, doesn't like it, so he posts up and drives towards the basket, a move he loves to use alongside his post spin. It was a good adjustment at the rim, but for a smaller player, they were able to disrupt Flagg quite a bit. Here against Auburn, I like the pump fake and drive, and while he doesn't finish over, he shows off his 7-foot wingspan and 40-inch vertical. Albeit this wasn't the prettiest ISO, but one more for good measure as he slips, legally gets himself back up, and then finishes with a lefty layup. While Flagg has shown the ability for some impressive dunks, especially for a college player, I think at the NBA level in the beginning, it's going to be the ability for him to finish with both his right and his left hand, his shot selection, his vertical, and his footwork that's going to make him a good finisher. And there is more to his game when you add in his post game as well. Here against Clemson, I like the move he makes as he post hop towards the center without getting the ball stripped, and he just misses this shot. Right here, he gets a high post entry at the line, spin dribbles with his left hand, and draws the foul. Here, I like his playmaking out of the post as he drives in, puts his back to the basket, and makes a good read from drawing the double. This leads to an open shot, and it's the simple but effective reads that are going to make him a good passer at the NBA level. One more play showing him off in the post. I love this pick and fade as he immediately flares out, forcing a switch, something I think is going to be key in going up against heavy switch NBA defenses. He recognizes the size mismatch and drives in with the spin layup. Also add in, Cooper Flagg attempted the third most free throws for the ACC conference, with the next forward being 7% worse than him. Remember, he shot at 84% and nobody's position was even close to that. While he is not still the most polished scorer in the world, and that's something he's going to have to improve on at the league level, he was certainly an exceptional scorer at Duke and on the college level, and I think a lot of his game is going to translate well into the NBA. No prospect, possibly in NBA history, has shown off his level of scoring in every single way. He can score at the rim in multiple ways, he can score out of the post, he's a good mid-range shooter, he can shoot the ball from three in a variety of fashions. Add on to that he can draw fouls at a pretty good rate, and there's really nothing that Cooper Flagg can't do at a pretty good level, at least at the college level, and I think he's going to be at least average at a lot of these come time for the NBA. And this is all without mentioning his playmaking and IQ on offense, because Cooper Flagg is an elite playmaker for his position that demonstrates a high basketball IQ. First off, I'm incredibly impressed with this playmaking out of the pick and roll, something that is near Jokic-esque. And here against Auburn, Flagg is going to set the screen, catch the ball at the line, immediately turn and find his teammate in the corner when doubled. And here against Notre Dame, this is a lob to another lottery pick, Kaman Maluak, and this is just a carbon copy of Nikola Jokic to Aaron Gordon. Not only is it a good decision, but it's a good reaction as Flagg is able to make the pass as he receives the ball. This play against FSU is literally the exact same play, and right here Maluak is unable to finish, but this is still a great decision and great pass from a weird angle and a good rotation. And yes, he can score out of the pick and roll too. This play against Houston is a great demonstration of that as he receives the screen, drives in, spins, pump fakes, draws contact, and completes the and one. If I had to describe Cooper Flagg in one play, it would be this one. I really like this play where he comes off the screen and treats it just like a pick and roll, immediately making the right read and his teammate just can't finish. This play shows him off in a pick and fade. You have to respect him, and that's just a great play. And then right here, he sets the screen, rolls, draws the double, and immediately punishes the defense for it. I expect Flagg will be setting more screens than he receives, at least in his rookie season, but I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see him become a pick and roll ball handler at some point in his career, as we saw with his great passing and playmaking. And I want to just highlight a few other random plays because they also just show off that basketball savant, that basketball IQ, and just his overall quickness and reactions that's going to make him a good playmaker and a good passer at the NBA level. Here versus Clemson, after he scrambled, he keeps his defender behind him and makes the open pass. Honestly, I was surprised to see a veteran move like this come from an 18-year-old. The shot doesn't go in, but this is an insane pass from the opposite side of the court, and look how accurate it is too. Another isolation possession that isn't super clean, but it results in an amazing unselfish play. Again, against Houston, I love this quick touch pass in transition, and tell me this isn't something that an NBA veteran wouldn't be pulling off. And then right here, Cooper Flagg curls off the screen and immediately demonstrates his quick passing from the mid-range area, and he sets his teammate up for the tip lob. Just imagine Cooper Flagg with players like Anthony Davis or Daniel Gafford. These are players that are going to be deadly in that short roll area. That was a lot of words about Cooper Flagg's offensive game, and that is something that a lot of scouts still call unpolished, and I don't think that they're quite wrong for that. First off, Flagg is not much of a ball handler. He definitely doesn't have the tightest dribble in the world. It's often not the smoothest looking and can put him in less than ideal scenarios, including an out of control finish or a travel. I'd argue his mind is better in his body in this regard. This is a telling play in the one that I just showed against Houston as he struggles to get past his man, and I mean big time struggles. His dribbles look weak and clearly need to be tightened, but this is a concerning play of what happens when he can't just overpower his defender, something he's definitely not going to be able to do as consistently in the NBA. Here against Auburn, he gets a good crossover but then starts to slip before getting fouled. This is not an ideal drive here as he starts to lose his balance again after the crossover. Dribble drive penetration is not really his strong suit, and if he already struggled with doing that consistently in college, I don't have high hopes for him being able to consistently pull this off in the NBA when he's not the strongest and best player on the court. I would also argue that his shot creation needs to be better. He can score off the cut, off the roll, fast break, spot up, but he can struggle in creating his own shot, especially in isolation, even with smaller defenders sometimes getting the win. But I want to talk about the real strong suit and the real reason why all scouts love Cooper Flagg, and that is his defense. Cooper Flagg is entering into the NBA as one of the highest potential defenders that we have seen in a long time for someone who is as good on offense as he is. Here against Clemson, he prevents his man from backing him down too deep. However, against NBA opponents, reaching for the ball like this is going to be a death sentence. Later in the first is a really good defensive possession as he keeps one arm up, utilizes his size, and stays in front of the quicker guard, forcing a bad shot. And another good defensive possession here as he gets switched onto a guard, shows great lateral mobility, and the Clemson guard loses his balance. Against their rival in North Carolina, number 24 attempts to make a move on him before wisely giving up, and this is another really good defensive possession where he's able to switch on the pick and roll and stay in front of his man despite using a lot of fakes, and he ends up getting the board. However, he will struggle against quicker guards when his lateral movement can't keep up, because I definitely wouldn't say this is his strongest aspect on defense, and we see this in this clutch shot right here. Here against Houston, I really like this on-ball defense and contest, and this is a great example showing that he will usually win the offensive-defensive matchup versus similarly sized players. Overall though, Cooper Flagg is a strong on-ball defender that college players rarely tested. I see him consistently guarding the 2 through 4 in the NBA and making them work every single possession. From time to time, I do think he has the capability of guarding the 1 through 5, but quicker guards in the NBA and stronger centers are going to get the advantage on him. But Flagg adds in pretty solid off-ball defense to go with that on-ball defense. That's because of his basketball instincts and mind. This right here is an advanced rotation as Flagg sinks down to the paint, and it helps the helper before the offense even knows a man is open. This is good help again versus Clemson, and I do like that he waits a bit and guards against the pass, likely knowing the shot clock was on their side. Against the higher ranked Auburn, he makes the right rotation but is just too small to go up there and contest. For NBA centers, he does need to be a little bit quicker right here if he doesn't want to be watching dunks like that. Or right here, he makes sure the center is picked up and when they commit to the shot, comes over to help. This is a great overall possession on defense as he maintains great on-ball defense and then knows when to commit and reach for the ball. For as good as he is, I did notice he could tend to be a little bit aggressive, such as helping out a teammate who probably didn't need it here against Clemson, and this is a really aggressive rotation where he sinks a bit far for his zone, leaving an open corner pass, following it up with not the best of closeouts. While I do call his rotations aggressive, there are times where he needs to step up a little bit quicker to be elite at this at the NBA level. But there is more to his game as well. With his elite size, height, rotation, and 7-foot wingspan, I expect that he is going to be a good off-ball rim protector coming in to help block shots. And I think he is going to be a menace when playing alongside guys like Derek Lively or Anthony Davis. I like this defense under the hoop. He plays it well to contest the shot without giving an open dump-off pass, and this is another good block as to where he has a great reach and timing not to commit a foul. Here in the Final Four, Flagg doesn't grab the rebound, but he makes up for it with a block. Flagg overall just has good hands. He averaged 1.4 steals and blocks per game in college, and lazy handoffs like these certainly help your numbers. I really like him hanging back to reach in and force a turnover, or right here where he plays the passing lane for a steal and a fast break. Cooper Flagg doesn't really have too many major struggles on defense. As I already mentioned, he can guard the 2 through 4 at a pretty high level and can occasionally switch onto a point guard or center. His rotations are often gambles, but they're usually not the wrong ones, but sometimes he just needs to be a tiny bit of a step quicker. I think for his size and for his position, he overall has pretty good footwork on both ends of the ball, but against those smaller, quicker players, he can tend to be a bit slow versus them. I definitely noticed he also consistently didn't have the best closeout, and this is something that is going to have to be improved against fast-paced and faster offenses. We also didn't really get him screened a lot in college, so I'm going to be curious how he is in the NBA as he has to navigate through more screens. We have a really good idea of what Flagg looked like in college now, so how is that going to transfer into the NBA? As far as his score goes, I expect that we're going to be seeing Cooper Flagg in the mid to high teens. Now this is kind of a hard one to guess because I have a good reason to believe that he's going to be a pretty solid spot-up shooter even for a rookie, and I think he's going to get a lot of catch and shoot opportunities on the Mavericks. I do have questions about his ability to score in isolation and his ability to create his own shot without just being stronger than the opponent. So if he's not able to get consistent mismatches or just wide open shots, then he's going to have to rely more on off-ball cuts and scoring in transition. But I also believe he's going to be scoring in the higher teens, especially because Kyrie Irving is going to be gone at least for the first half of the season, and that's 19 shots per game that isn't going to be there. That is the most on the Mavericks, and that is going to have to be filled. I think Flagg's rebounding is also going to carry over really well. He does have a high motor and he has a good IQ, and he's actually someone that does close out for rebounds, and he does a good job boxing out, so I don't see why that won't be different in the NBA, especially if rebounding is not always seen a lot by threes. Now it's his assists that are also going to be interesting. For a fact, we know he's a good passer, and I don't have any doubts on that. But if he can't create his own shot and if he can't be a threat off the dribble drive, then how many assists is he going to be generating? He averaged 4.5 per game in college, but some of those were due to just standing at the top of the key and passing to an open player coming off of a screen, so that does kind of naturally inflate your numbers. So even if his number might be a tiny bit inflated, I don't doubt his ability to be a great passer or have great vision at all, but I do think in the NBA he may not get the most amount of assists per game. But don't be mistaken, just because Flagg doesn't have a lot of assists per game, I would expect probably 2 to 4 if I had to make a conservative guess. Just because he doesn't have a lot of assists per game doesn't mean he's not going to be a good and a smart passer. Due to his high motor and basketball IQ, as well as his natural athleticism, I do expect that Flagg is going to be averaging probably about a block and a steal per game, which is a really good mark for a rookie that is talented on offense. He has good hands and plays the passing lanes well, but gambling to make a block or a steal can sometimes create highlights for the other team. That's a rough idea of what I think his stats are going to be for his rookie season. And yes, I do think he's probably going to win the Rookie of the Year award barring any injury. But now that we know what he's going to look like probably in the NBA and we know what he did in college, what is the caps of his career? In other terms, what is his ceiling, his floor, and his median going to look like? Due to having a polished overall game at Duke, I actually do think that Flagg has a higher ceiling than most other players. A good shooter doesn't always translate well into the NBA. A good ball handler doesn't always translate well. There are defenders that can defend well in the NBA level, but then they can't do anything on offense and they can't stay on a roster. But Flagg has so many skills at an above average level that if he can be average at just a bunch of things, he is going to find himself playing consistent minutes. At worst, a role player in the starting lineup or a consistent bench player who goes and plays huge minutes. For me, one player I think he could look like is the Portland Trail Blazers' Deni Avdija. Avdija is a great player who has an all-around game, maybe just not the most assists per game and not the most efficient in the world, but he can play defense at a decent level, he can score at a decent level, he can rebound, and an awful playmaker. But he doesn't do any of this at a star level yet, although I do really believe in Deni Avdija. But for the worst version of Cooper Flagg, I think this year's Deni Avdija is a good mark of what he can be. The middle estimate to me is a player like Franz Wagner, a big forward who plays good defense, is a good rebounder, is a good scorer, who is somewhat efficient. He could be the kind of guy that is a great number 2 option on a team, but maybe just not great enough to be that number 1. And I don't want you to think that Franz Wagner is kind of a disrespect to him at all, because remember, Wagner probably could have been or should have been an all-star this year, and he averaged 24 points per game and like 8 or 9 rebounds. That is a really good mark for an NBA player. Once again though, that is a somewhat conservative median estimate of Cooper Flagg. Let's talk about his ceiling, because I actually think his ceiling could go a few ways. The first way I think about is actually somewhat like Jimmy Butler. Not so much exactly in their play styles, however I do see some semblance to that, but Flagg is definitely a bit taller than Butler. I do think he can match Butler in the sense of that he can be the best player on a team without always having the best stats. For his time at his peak, and especially during his playoff runs in Miami, Butler could fill up the stat sheet, of course, but there were numerous times where his stats weren't the greatest, but he was still the best player on the court, or at least the best player on his team. Butler also does a lot of small things really well, and these small things contribute to winning, and that's what Cooper Flagg does. He does plays that contribute to winning, even if it doesn't always count as one of the 5 major box stats. But if he improves his handle, I actually think he could be similar to a pre-injury Indiana Paul George, an all-around player that literally doesn't have a weakness, who is just shy of being able to bring a team all the way. But like that Paul George comparison, I don't know if I see him being good enough, at least in this way. I don't know if I see him being good enough to be the #1 option and completely carry a team, at least without having other co-stars. But this leads me to my all-time ceiling for him, and something I think he has a pretty solid chance in becoming, and that is a more efficient, better shot selection Jason Tatum. For as much as we clown on Jason Tatum, Tatum is incredibly fast, strong, and generally pretty smart for his position. He doesn't have a single weakness in his game. There's not a single thing in basketball that Jason Tatum doesn't do at an above average level for his position. He can defend, he can rebound, he can pass, and we certainly know that he can score, and we know he can be the #1 option on a championship team, even if he can't win the finals MVP. I think Flagg can surpass Tatum in both his shot selection and his efficiency. We all know Tatum loves that little sidestep shot, even if it's not the most efficient shot in the world. It's something he does quite often. Last year, Tatum actually shot 40% on catch and shoot shots, and I think at his prime, we could see Flagg reaching this mark. Cooper Flagg might just be the next effective player that is on path to be a star and is on path to be the new face of the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know if he's exactly going to pass the bar that Luka Doncic has set, but like all other rookies, he is going to be followed all season, and you should be tuning in and watching every single Cooper Flagg game. This was my complete analysis of the #1 overall pick, Cooper Flagg, something I'm definitely curious to see how well this ages, or how poorly this ages a few years from now. But if you liked the video, let me know of some other players that you want me to check out, and I'll definitely try to get that to you. But that is it for this one. If you liked the video, you know what to do, but I will catch you all later.